Okay, so going to start, introduce myself and Elizabeth Ellis first. We're the Pausitivity poster girls. Really good, isn't it? We're the poster girls. The Pausitivity poster girls. And we're holding a series of these positive living events to share as much information as we can from lots of fabulous people, experts, to help you through your menopause and midlife. We've got a huge range of different subjects to entice you with, and hopefully they'll all take something away and something positive away or positive away to put into action and help you. So I'm going to introduce you to Adelle Martin. She is a super duper fitness I was going to say guru, fanatic, really passionate about fitness throughout the menopause years. So I'm going to hand you straight over to her and to share some great information with you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Claire. Right, ladies, just bear with me because I am menopausal too. So I need to make sure I can connect my brain and share my screen. So thank you so much, Claire, for having me today. I met these wonderful ladies at the start of the year and it's been an amazing journey, and I just want to say thank you for being part of this. So my name is Adelle Martin and I'm here to talk to you about my personal journey and the ones I use with my clients about basically fitness to 50 and beyond. And it is all about simple, strong steps. It's not complicated, it can't be. I can't have anything complicated, but I warn you, it has to be consistent. And that is what I'm looking at, and that is the secret to it. So I can assure you this won't be complicated, but it will be consistent. So hopefully by the end of this event, you'll know why you need to include consistent fitness into your daily routine. If you're anything like me, somebody tells me to do something, I want to know why, because I'm very busy. Why have I got to do something? Why is it important? And then how can I do it? So it's really important that I thought I'd share my true why with you, and then hopefully that will make you feel motivated to take consistent, simple, strong steps to your own fitness and 50 and beyond. So if I succeed, Claire, hopefully that's what we will get at the end of this event. So me, why me? What's my story? So I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression at the age of 40. I was right in the middle of the financial crisis. That was okay. I'd been used to working in that sort of environment, had a busy family, that was fine. But all of those sort of stresses came in one place, and I was misdiagnosed with anxiety and depression, but worked really, really hard with my GP and workplace, and finally got the diagnosis that was menopause at 40. Okay, great. I had no idea, which if any of you follow my blogs, I do the 40 things to accept after 40. I didn't know what to accept. So I carried on as best as I could. I ran marathons, I did cardio, I ran to and through work. Unbeknown to me at the time, osteoporosis and muscle loss had started to kick in, and I was still very, very active. I had knee and joints and pain joints and hips, and I finally went and had a scan, and they said to me I needed to have both hips resurfaced immediately or have a hip replacement in 2 to 3 years. As I came out of surgery, not quite what I expected, he said to me that I'd already started 4 years in at 44 having osteoporosis and muscle loss. And I would not be able to run the distances and the gym bunny and the treadmills that I was doing at that time. So I had my head in my hands and thought, what next? You know, what the hell is going on with my body? Why are my muscles deteriorating and osteoporosis? 8 years ago, we hadn't really done the research that some wonderful people are doing today on what was happening. So I realised what was happening with the estrogen and my muscle loss, etc. So I thought, well, how on earth do I go forward? How do I reclaim my body and my fitness? And that's when I was basically a walking experiment for 18 months and really leveraged the strength training and also the other approaches to fitness. But again, I was busy, things had to be simple. So that is where I developed my simple, strong steps, fitness to 50. So I'm talking from a place of experience before this start. So that's just a little bit about me. So, as always, if you do anything, I always talk about the science and the symptoms, because it's really important that we understand what we're facing into. As our estrogen and progesterone start to decline through our perimenopause, and then we have the fluctuations in the menopause wave, that's causing all of our, I talk a lot about our 12 systems, but particularly our muscle and our skeletal systems have an impact with that loss of estrogen. Our bone density, this is what I sat and read, can drop by 20%. Well, it didn't me. I was actually walking through that. 1 in 2 women and 1 in 5 women have fractures from falls. It's astounding. And you can look at the graphic, but mind the gap. There is a gap there where women bones age much faster than men's. If you look at the left, it's not an arrow and a whisper bar, which I always refer to when I'm coaching women, but you know, that is the difference. If you think about an arrow and a whisper bar, that's the best way of just thinking about our bone density as we start to feel the impacts of our hormones declining. And muscle loss, sarcopenia was my word of even now, and it's around, this is quite staggering, from the age of 39, there's no coincidence there that our hormone levels start to decline, that we lose 1/5 of a pound of muscle every 12 months. But from 50, or like me, where my menopause really kicked in and I'd completely stopped having periods at 40, I was losing a pound every 12 months of that. If you look at the picture below, it just shows you, okay, your leg or your arm might be the same, but look how the muscle is strong, and then we have replaced that with sort of the fat cells. And the picture at the bottom, you'll hear in a minute when I talk about thighs save lives, you know, look at the thigh and then look at in the other picture. There's 2 key things here I'll talk about. If we lose our strength, we do lose our structure, and if you don't use it, you lose it in our muscles. But the best thing about muscle, you can actually build it, because I didn't have any. I actually built my muscle in a post-menopausal body, and hopefully from an osteoporosis point of view, I'm holding back as much as I can from all my strength training. But not just that, some of you may empathise with this. My weight management went completely bonkers. I couldn't understand, and I went from a pear to a square. That's the best way of describing the way my body was changing, and I really didn't understand why until I understand the impact of estrogen and cortisol and where the fat distribution changed. And it puts around your middle, and I'd completely lost my way. So if you see, I talk about the midlife pose, and I put my hands deliberately on my hips and strengthen my legs, because that's what I want to get back, you know. There's got to be a way, and that's what I just really didn't understand, why my body was changing. The joint pain, again, can be arthritic. That's what drove me in the first place. But also, you know, we can ache. I still ache now, you know, but not as aching as I was. I'd rather ache from a strength training session or a good long walk than because I was sitting and doing nothing, because that was far more painful. The mind-body loop, you cannot get away from it for 2 things. We have 12 systems, and I understand all 12 and how estrogen impacts them all. And we have to move to get those systems to function, our digestive system, our cardiovascular, our central nervous system, and our brain, to release their happy hormones. Progesterone falls and estrogen, so the equilibrium breaks at our perimenopause, and that natural balance has gone. So progesterone falls away, which is Mother Nature's calming agent. So if she's playing up and we're not calm, then by doing the exercises, we're releasing serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, which is the sister of progesterone as well, which I talk a lot about, and our endorphins. So we need those happy hormones when we move in, not only functionally, but also to keep me happy, because I know if I miss a session or I don't feel my exercise, I do really feel it overall in my body and my mind. So that's a little bit on the science and the symptoms. So don't worry, don't be too depressed by this. There is, as always with me, we'll have a discussion around the science, and we'll have a 90-second rule. We'll have a poly-pity for 90 seconds, and do you know what? We're going to get into some action. So, when I can find the button. So, for me, there are I talk about my midlife body, and it is to feel stronger. And I like to keep things simple that I can understand. So it's food, move, and snooze. Elements of food. I know the wonderful Claire is doing a detailed event on food, so I'm not going to dip in there too far, apart from the things that I drive home consistently with me and my clients is eat to perform. Think about how you're going to perform that day. Think about what you've got on. Protein, include protein. When I talk to women and I meet new clients, I am really staggered by little protein in diets where people are skipping the protein. So I do really talk about good quality proteins. Lots and lots of water. I drink 3 to 4 litres a day, and I keep it coming. And limit coffee and meal timings. So there's some science in there about allowing time. I work with myself and my clients between sort of 3 to 4 hours and not too much fasting. So, but I'm not going to go into more of that because I'm cutting across Claire, but I just wanted to show that, you know, it's important that food is part of this. Move, which I will go through in a moment, but this is about my 4 S's. Again, I like to keep things simple. It's about strength, steps, stretch, and shimmy, which I'll share in a little bit more detail. But this was a game changer for me, which is ironic when you might have night sweats and sleepless nights, is snooze, because this is truly where the magic happens. And I talk a lot around this. If we don't sleep, our systems cannot rejuvenate, and they cannot build the muscle and do everything. The best analogy of explaining to it is we've got to be like teenagers. Our bodies are transforming at that stage. The challenge is we still have businesses to run, families, and all these great things we do that we don't have a teenager, and we've got night sweats. And as hard as it is, because I still feel that sometimes today, if I don't prioritise my sleep, I can feel it in my body. But this was a complete game changer for me in how it enabled me to sort of build strength, etc. So I make sure that I have a very clear sort of bedtime routines and make sure what my triggers are for hot flushes or night sweats or anxiety. I make sure they're completely prioritised, because without the sleep, I really couldn't function and build the body that I want, which is all about feeling stronger. So they're the 3 principles that you guys need to think through. So my 4 S's. So strength training, 3 times a week. Steps and neat. So it's non-exercise active thermogenesis, or to me and you, fidget. I'm talking about fidgeting, you know, that's what I'm looking for, is steps throughout the day and fidgeting. So like myself, if I'm preparing or coaching, I could be sitting for hours on end. I'm actually standing at the moment. I've actually got a desk that goes up and down. So I spend a good 50 minutes sitting and also 50 minutes standing. I also make sure that if I'm on calls where I can, I will walk, and then I make sure I get regular breaks, and I make sure that I fidget. For somebody like me, that isn't too hard because I'm a fidgeter, because I'm always curious, but it's really, really important. A good example, I would say, if you're walking somewhere, instead of a lift, I would use the stairs. If you're going on tubes, that we aren't so much these days, we're more housebound, but just do steps and go up and down the steps. It's really quite simple, but it's an absolute game changer for me. And I would do like where Sundays I would go out for hours and hours of marathon running. I now go out for a 5K power walk on a Sunday, and that is the most stressful I will put through this, because where I've put here tension, not stress. This is something we need to be absolutely mindful of. We're already going through a stressful process, and our body is heightened while we're going through all of these changes. I found with my clients, if we pound treadmill after treadmill and take our training up to, extreme levels of interval training and CrossFit, we're just adding to the stress on our menopause wave. And that is when I found what I was doing. My body was holding on to the cortisol and holding on to me, going, I don't know what's going on here. I've got to keep her safe. My exercise routines were putting so much stress on my body overall. I was doing more harm than good. It was only by my surgeon and my hips that broke that cycle. So that is what's really important around the training that I do with myself and my clients. It's about tension, not stress. And also then stretching as well, daily and night, daily, every single night, and then shimmy in the morning. So for me, why strength training? So the first one is to build lean muscle tissue to help bone and density. These are the things what I was talking around, the sarcopenia and the osteoporosis. It is so important. And when I work with myself and my clients, I was scared to pick up weights. I was scared to go into the gym in the weights room, but I just picked them up because I had no choice. You know, I just had to move forward and pick it up. But once I started lifting those weights and I released those happy hormones and I could see the results, but mentally I felt so much stronger. I'll hit those weights 3 times a week, and I hit that gym floor now and just get all the men to move out of the way, and it's building that confidence. But most of the work that I do with my clients is at home, and I can train at home or train in the gym, but it's about building that frame, which I'll go into more detail in a minute. And steps, again, heart, lungs and cardio health, it's so important. I was quite surprised looking at the estrogen levels and the impact on the heart. We have to keep it going, but keeping that tension versus stress when we're doing our cardio activity is so important. It keeps our systems going, and yet again, it keeps our happy hormones moving while progesterone is declining in our body. Stretching. It is about keeping flexible and supple joints to help with stability. It's so important. If we do rush around, pick up bags, fall over, in our hips, I'm finding that I'm far more stable because it will give you that stretch. And we don't want to be in that position where we've got those hip fractures of 1 in 5 women. When I looked at reasons women are in care homes, it's in the top 5 for hip fractures and long stays in hospitals. So we really can't underestimate that, and the stretching will help that. I personally find calm before bed, and stretching really helps. It brings my anxiety levels down, and also it just gets me prepared for bed. Even if there's that night sweat, I've done everything I can to sort of calm my body. And then shimmy. My personal shimmy is a salsa, but you can do whatever that is. Katrina and the Waves I was listening to while I was preparing for this, whatever makes you happy. If you're like me, there's lots of songs from the 80s that bring back good and bad memories. But you know what? It's all about having a shimmy. And joking apart, there is lots of research. That's why I say, let's get a shimmy on. There is lots of research about dance. And if you go back and look at belly dancing and all that dance and where it's linked to tribal and happy, I had the privilege just before lockdown going to New York to see Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama talking all things women and midlife. We got in and sat down in this massive stadium, and the first thing Oprah says is, come on, let's get a shimmy on. I went, excuse me, Oprah, that's my saying. But she did, and she brought in these amazing dancers, and we were all up dancing, which was a bit scary. I know I didn't come back with the coronavirus from New York, but we were packed in early February. But it's really important. And also, first thing in the morning, again, I talk a lot about our circadian rhythm, and it's about our body clock in simple terms, but we do have excess cortisol in the morning to get us up and going. It's important that we get rid of that. I personally sort of strength train in the morning, but if I can't, then I'll get a morning walk, but I'll certainly get a shimmy on to get that cortisol moving, so it's moving through our body, because any sort of stress and stuff that we get, then it sits within our blood sugar. So it's trying to keep, which is already a stressful process, as less stressful as possible. So those are my 4 S's. Now, within the strength training, I just wanted to pull out, I don't randomly go in and just get women to lift weights. There's a method in my madness around how I structure the body. So upper body, I focus on the upper body, I focus on core, and then I focus on lower body. Why I do on upper body? I have my pet hate. My 22-year-old, I'm screaming at, on the phone, when I'm on the phone leaning forward, or you're on the laptop, I'm going to turn sideways if you can see me, speaker, you end up with this really round shoulder. Even I can see Elizabeth sitting up straight. I was going to say there's no participation unless you want to, but all the participation is just think about that upper structure, because what happens is the muscle and the necks will shrink, and we can end up shrinking that spine and going forward. And you might see people as you get older get that hunched over. So important that you open that neck, and there's lots of nerve endings in our neck as well. And when we lift, if you've got some muscle in there, it just might help with that saggy neck as well. So it just helps to build that strength, you know. Don't worry, I lift weights, I eat loads, and I do not look like Arnie. Women go to me, oh, I'm going to get like a bodybuilder. Trust me, I've done hours and hours of it, and you don't. But what I've built is a good strong neck and good strong back. And then the full back. People talk about back aids. If we're sitting, we might be leaning forwards. Not only we've got the neck, we've also got the lower back, and then we can end up with a real sort of hunch over. And that's as the spine starts to reduce down. And it's so important that I train my lower, my middle and my top, because it all has to sit in symmetrical as well. So just thinking about your back and the role that has. We've actually got 4 shoulders. So when I think about shoulders, this truly is around opening it up. So then we've got the front of the shoulder, we've got the side of the shoulder, the top and the back. Quite often if you're reaching for cupboards and things, you're probably using the front there, and you might lean over and pull things. Where women get a lot of weaknesses, you don't really walk around with your arms like this in front of you. And there's some really strong muscles down there and laterally there, because if we don't build our shoulders in symmetry, then again, you're pulling yourself. You've got to create, I call it my coat hanger. What I'm going to hang my whole body off is really, really important. And then we've got chest, because my bust was going south. So I can't promise you a perfect bust, but a good chest routine and a good Marks and Spencer's or Victoria's Secret's bra does wonders. But it's creating that structure across here. So as you strengthen your back, you strengthen your chest. So you've got that complete posture. And then arms, the thing that women worry about the most. People, you've got 2 parts to your arm. You've got your bicep, which is the front, and then you've got your bottom half, which women really struggle with. And I know growing up, my mum referred them to her as a bingo wings, when she used to say house and pull them up. And I know that women really struggle with those. I do a lot of exercises, but I've created my own midlife movement, and I use it a lot, even when I'm standing around washing up or in a queue, although not in public, so I do look like a penguin. So when I'm training the women and we're doing some like triceps, then I've got this pose. If you actually stand, you've got your arms either way, and then walk like a penguin and strengthen the whole of that tricep. That really works. So when we're doing our routines, I'm walking around like that, but it's all around that time under tension, and it's a really, really neat trick that we do as finishers to build our arms, because we are still picking things up and throwing them around. So it's really important that we build our arms up. And then the core body, the bit in the middle, it is so important. And I think about that in 3 elements. Hip stability, and that's making sure when we do our core routines, there are lots of core exercises. Pilates focuses on a lot. I do a hybrid between strength training and Pilates for core body. It really does help with that hip stability. And clients say to me, Adelle, I'm much more sturdy on my feet. I said, yes, because you're putting everything in the right places, and you're standing symmetrical, and you've got strong legs. So you're in complete line, and you will have a much, much stronger core. Pelvic floor, we have a sling of muscles that sit underneath, and it's so important. So what we don't realise is, I certainly didn't, when obviously we see those pictures and we lose that muscle from our arms and our thighs, we're also losing it from our pelvic floor. And it's so important that we do all of those pelvic floor exercises. The only time I ever remembered that was my midwife screaming at me, you must do your pelvic floor, after I had my daughter. And then that was it. I never heard about it again until some of you might identify, I call it the door key wee. When you put the key in the door and you're like, I need to go for a wee. And that is like pelvic floor. Or my daughter's trampoline and everyone's bouncing. I'd have the girls over, and after a few drinks, I'd be, oh my God, I think I just peed myself on the trampoline. It's all of those great things, but there is an absolute sling of muscles down there that people don't realise. It keeps your womb, it keeps your bladder and everything in place. And it's really, really important that we focus on even the muscles we can't see. And also around our abdomen, we've got all of our vital organs, our livers, etc. And when I talk around our systems and how estrogen puts a stress on all of them while we're going through this process, it's important not only that when we're stepping, they're moving and functioning properly, but also that we're strengthening our abdominal and our lower back to keep them in place. So that is the middle of us that we need to focus on. And then the bottom part, our lower body. And that is our ankles, our calves and our knees for steps. So I do specific ankle movements and training, calves and knees. Don't just think lower leg. It's important that we just think about how our leg is structured and how we focus on those. And then upper leg, thighs save lives. I remember as a young girl and a teenager going, oh, I hate my legs, I hate the size of my legs. And now I'm at the age where I want to grow my legs. Isn't Mother Nature interesting in the things that we think about? But thighs do save lives. It is the largest muscle in the body. So where we build our thighs, we're building that muscle. So when we're eating our food and building our body, then we're not losing that overall calorific. I talk to women, they say to me, Adelle, I ate the same calories that I did before. And I said, yes, but you've lost so many pounds of muscle. What is it those calories are doing to your body? But I still look the same, but I'm a bit, you know, yes, it's looking underneath and building that muscle up to enable that calorie burn. You know, that's so important. But yes, it's important about the waist, but it's so important around feeling stronger and making sure that we don't have fractures, etc. So that's really important around our legs. And then our bum, I call it flat bum or beige bum. Sometimes where you've got trousers and you're putting them on and you just feel like, you know, there is no bum there anymore, there's no structure. And it's making sure that we absolutely build those glutes and have that for structure for our hips. So that sits nicely within our core body as well, but it's really important that we build those glutes up. And there's nothing we do around lunges and squats, etc., with progressive weight overload. So, you know, it's really important that we sort of focus on that moving forward. So those are those three elements that I focus on. Now, this is so important, and this is one of the challenges that we have in our perimenopause and menopause body. And this is the bit at the bottom that before the age of 39 didn't even impact me at all. And this is what I did through copious amounts of research and copious amounts of personal experience. I call them the 4 S's, undermined by the 4 S's. So lack of sleep will absolutely impact your overall health, but also gains around muscle or weight loss, because if we're not getting enough sleep, then we're developing potential chronic stress, our systems aren't working, we're not rejuvenating or putting all of that goodness back in our body. It's slower before we were 39 because of our hormones are declining, so we do have to, you know, really take that into account. But I also know how hard that one is, especially with sleepless nights and hot flushes. Stress, chronic stress, having levels of cortisol through our body. You probably see there's lots of research around that, around our belly fat, and because we're trying to hold on to it, because our body thinks we're under stress and anxiety, we'll take those carbohydrates and put them into our blood, etc., thinking that we're going to be running away from saber-toothed tigers. We're not. We're just dealing with hot flushes or people or day-to-day job. We're not dealing with what our body thinks it is. So it's making sure that we really we do look after the stress, and it makes all of our symptoms a lot worse because we're already going through that menopause wave. And then sugar, processed sugar. Taking sugar out of my diet was a complete game changer for me. It completely enabled me to gain muscle. It enabled me to feel stronger and think clearly. It was tough at first, but once I got through it, I was able to remove it. all of the processed sugar. So if I'm going to have a sugary treat now, it would be something like, I've got into like 80 to 90% dark chocolate if I'm going to have that, and then I'll have berries, etc., and fruit with my breakfast in the morning. And then the other one is sedentary or sitting and lack of motion. I talked about the power of NEAT and steps, etc. But you can do a great session in the gym in the morning, but if then you're sitting down all day, your overall steps, etc., won't be there, and then you'll be stiff. So it's important to think about, you can have the best training program at the top, but if you don't manage those other S's underneath, then you, at this age and what we're facing into, you just won't get the gains that that you're looking for, from my personal experience and my clients. So it is, hopefully you've seen, it is sort of simple, strong steps. It isn't complicated, but it does take consistency. So hopefully you now know why you need to include consistent fitness into your daily routine, and hopefully you feel motivated or even curious to take consistent, simple steps, you know, to your own fitness to 50 and beyond. So that's it, Claire. That's my session on my journey.
Can I ask one question first, Adelle? We had a question on some of your slides. You had NEAT. What is NEAT?
Non-exercise active thermogenesis. So what that means is fidgeting. So it, you know, it's about doing energetic. So a good example would be if you're faced with a lift or stairs, take the stairs. Don't get in the car to the corner shop, go for a walk up the stairs. I've got 2 toilets. I've got a toilet downstairs and a toilet upstairs. I go to the one upstairs.
And with that, I'll ask Eileen if you could unmute yourself, because you've just asked a question about NEAT. Would you mind just asking it yourself?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I have a rather sedentary job. I am not a natural fidgeter. I try to go for a walk at lunchtime, but apart from that, how else can I improve my NEAT expenditure?
The way I again, when I'm writing, if there's an opportunity where potentially you could stand and work, just by standing rather than sitting, then you burn more calories and you can improve your NEAT levels as well. So that's always a good element to do. And also I find putting in regular breaks, sort of every 15 minutes, I'll take 10 off if I can around meetings, because not only does that, I go for even like a walk on the spot or walk around the office, that also allows your brain to recharge as well. From a productivity point of view, I find those work, but those are my absolute hacks that I would do to increase that energy levels. I wear a Fitbit, so I could just keep an eye on my steps overall, because some days, I'll be quite honest, if I am in flow and I'm writing slides or writing chapters for books, etc., I have to set that a lot, otherwise my steps could be quite low, and I go, right, I'm finished today, I'm going to go out for an evening walk. But it has to be quite mindful to begin with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. And Arlene, if you're there, you had a question. Arlene Waters. Would you mind unmuting yourself, and then you can ask your question.
Yeah, I was also wondering about NEAT too, and so just to build off of that, I wondered, like, I think you kind of covered everything I wanted to ask, but I wondered about beginning on weight training. What's a good way to just start?
Good way to start is, I love, you can get a trio of dumbbell sets, you can get a 1.5, a 2 and a 5. And the way that I work, or even if it's not that and you've never picked up, you can pick up bottles of water or cans from the kitchen, and definitely start with traditional for your upper body would be sort of shoulder presses, up, bicep curls. There are lots of different programs, but start with picking up you know, weights or beans or water that are quite heavy as well. But obviously check that you're okay with your doctor, etc. But absolutely start with good quality shoulder presses. All of the exercises I do, they're absolutely not fancy. They really do come from the basic bodybuilding school from the 1950s. It really is about shoulder pressing. It's about lateral raises. It's about bicep curls, and then also about tricep curls. And then in terms of legs, you don't even, at first stage, I do 3 programs with my clients. I do stabilize, I do strengthen, and I do stronger. So in stabilize, you would do squats, but you would do them without weights, just your simple body weight. And you could just literally go down. So if you're going to sit on a chair, down and up, you could easily do. And in terms of core, then you could do your pelvic floors, etc. But if you Google them or look for weight exercises, all I ask you guys to do, this copious amounts of fitness training and etc. out there. Just focus, just make sure you cover your upper body, your core and your lower body, and start off with water and small weights. But remember, it's food, move and snooze. It won't just be that. You've got to make sure you eat the food and you sleep, but definitely start off on that. And I look at that as, when I work with my clients, that's stabilizing them.
Great, thank you.
That's okay.
Diane has a question that I'm sure lots of us would want to know. Diane, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello. I'll try and get my video to work so you can see me as well. I'm looking to it. Oh, there we go. Hello. Thank you for that. That was really helpful. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. I'll put my glasses and show my age now.
Oh, don't worry, don't worry. Thank you for that. During lockdown, my husband and I really got into Joe Wicks, and as a lot of the nation did, and I've let it go a bit in the last month for one reason or another. And I just wondered, we found it really good. If I've never done the HIIT training before, and just doing 20 minutes to half an hour of that in the morning really did lift our moods. And actually, some of the pain I'd been getting in my knees and my ankles went after a month or 2 of doing it. But I just wondered if that was the sort of exercise that would be okay, or if there's any exercises in that sort of exercise regime that possibly should avoid.
Absolutely. So in terms of interval training, it's especially where you are on your menopause journey or transition, if you're getting hot flushes or symptoms, so you're really at the key point, then we have to think about the overall stress on your body. Now, elevating, like I said, if you under those interval training and you feel tension, then that will absolutely work really well. When I do the weight training with the clients, the way we put them together, believe it or not, when you are not used to and you're lifting weights and then you have a rest, it's interval training. It is actually, my strength training is a form of interval training, because you lift for what could be 12 reps and then you hold for 30 seconds. It's that form of interval training. But because at this stage, if I'm stabilizing somebody, then bouncing around may more cause harm than good. So that's how I do those interval trainings. So if you're doing something like Joe Wicks or any other interval training, it's great to take your heart rate up, but do not push it to complete stress. And make sure, if you are doing those, you can grab some water or beans. Then when Joe's saying put your arms in your air, you're adding that extra weight, because that's what you want to build. You want to build weight. And if you can do that for interval, but actually the way that I structure the strength training is actually interval. My heart rate goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. But it's
I really liked the interval training. I liked that rest in between.
Yeah, so do I. I'm like, oh yeah, I love it. Oh God, I've got a bell that tells me to get moving, because Roy in my brain are going, Adele's like, no, I've got to get back to the next one. So yeah, I do a little timer to tell me to pick those weights back up.
Just quickly, do you do any YouTube videos? Is there anything, or have you already said that? Sorry.
I am working through, I blog on all things menopause, so I do. At this moment in time, I am working through my videos to be pulled together for release in November. But I do have a YouTube channel where I talk all things menopause and the impact. And within each of those symptoms, I talk about food, movement, snooze. I will bore you to death, but it's so important. But yeah, I have got a channel.
Thank you.
We will be sharing all the contact details for Adelle as well, so you can contact her and follow her, etc. Any more questions, Elizabeth?
We have one. How did you wean yourself off sugar? Which is one I'm going to ask as well.
Yeah. So how did I wean myself? It's a difficult one. I completely, first of all, I didn't buy it. I took it out of the house. So I took all of the sugar out of the house, and the things would be like Percy Pigs from Marks and Spencer's, things like that. I took them all out of it. And in terms of drinking, I didn't really drink anyway, but I did drink lots of Prosecco, which was quite sugary. So when I talk to clients, if they are going to have a drink, and we try to stick to something like gin that's very simple with sugar. But if I'm stabilising somebody, then we try to limit the drink. And then I might have a really dry champagne now if I'm going to drink. So first of all, I took it out of the house. And then what I did is, as menopausal women, we do have bad days. All of my stuff is on most days. And what I do, the best way of describing it, if I'm having a hot flush, I want to, stab somebody in my family because I've got a mood swing, okay, I would go and grab those Percy Pigs and I would eat them mindlessly, okay? And that, the best way of describing it, if you jump out of a parachute, it's like jumping out without a parachute. You're going to break your legs. You're going to have that sugar rush. You're going to get that, you won't get that up. It's going to be painful. So what I did is I replaced it with things like good quality rice cakes, peanut butter. And I would then, if I'm having a meno moment, I would go to the cupboard, I would get my rice cake, and then Nature do a peanut butter with cacao powder in, which tastes like Nutella, but it absolutely isn't. And it's from the Protein Works, so I buy stuff from protein shop. It's just not for men, it's for menopausal women, and there's a huge amount of research that shows this stuff works for us. So I'll put on that, and it's like coming out of an aeroplane on a parachute. So you're getting slow release carbohydrates into your body, and it's not dumping those sugars, and then you go back for more. So I made sure I had the right things in front of me. I made my own flapjacks with oats and organic honey. I would add protein powder to that. I'd add 99% dark chocolate in there. So I made my own snacks, and then I made sure I had lots of protein in my food, Greek yogurt. And I just made sure I had the right things around me, and then I drank water. I'm not going to say it was easy, but once I got through 7 days and I came out the other side, I was absolutely fine. To the point now, Elizabeth, say for instance, you got to have, I was 50 a few weeks ago. Although I had an organic sugar-free cake made for me, your family brings you, oh, have a bit of cake, Adelle, oh, let your hair down. Okay, so I had the cake. Oh my God, not the next day, but the day after, I was cranky, my brain fog, agitated, shaky. And I go, do you know what, Adelle? That's why I don't have sugar anymore. So yeah, it was hard, but hopefully there's some hints and tips that help.
And Ruth has a question for you.
Yeah, hi. That was really, really interesting. I do quite a lot of exercise anyway. I cycle, I've started running, I do some weights, but I just wondered, how long should a weight session be? Is 20 minutes enough, or should it be longer? How do you know when it's enough?
Good. No, through lots of research that I've done. So I get to an optimum 40 minutes. As long as I do stick to the rest and don't get distracted, as long as you stick to the routine and the rest, then about 40 minutes is what I would do. And that's enough to get your heart rate up and then allow rest. And then you're not putting too much stress on your body as well. And then coming out of a full 40-minute strength training routine, I would then make sure I fuel myself up with good breakfast or lunch or dinner, depending when you're doing your training. I think
that's the tricky thing for me, because I have arthritis, inflammatory arthritis, which I've had for 15 years. So I do yoga every morning for about half an hour, and that's the first thing. That's kind of non-negotiable. So that with 40 minutes of weights would be pretty difficult to fit in, I think. So.
Yeah. Again, 3 times a week. So if you're doing potentially yoga in the morning, so I do my extended stretching in yoga. Another good window of opportunity, if possible, would be late afternoon or early evening.
Okay.
It's too much science to go into here, but there's a circadian rhythm of the best points to, if I don't train in the morning, I might do a yoga session in the morning, and I would fit my weights into the evening before that meal. It would just help to build that strength. With yoga, you are building strength anyway. And when I've worked with clients that do Pilates and yoga, then they pick up strength training and they go, oh my God, I'm so much stronger in yoga, and I can do this in Pilates. So they do sit and complement each other really well. And definitely,
Brilliant, thank you.
A client with arthritis, and again, she saw the difference by doing both as well. But we start off with low weight and stabilise, and then we build up from strength to stronger.
Brilliant, thank you. That was so brilliant, so interesting. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
I think, Jacqueline, do you have a question? Hello, Jacqueline.
Yeah. Hi, sorry. I think Elizabeth was saying that was my question was maybe more suited to, I think it's your session on nutrition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
Make sure I can answer it.
I have type 1 diabetes. I suppose for me, Adele, a question around weight training. I have type 1 diabetes, and I have the complication of retinopathy in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm often told by the optometrist, don't do any heavy lifting. That can aggravate the eyes. And I know that's probably quite a specific, and you know, if you would have any advice around that. But yeah, it does put me off.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it would. We can do strength training just on our own body weight as well.
Right.
I follow a really interesting bodybuilder. He's a man, but he's type 1 diabetic, and he's done really well. And I've been following him for years, looking at how that sort of helped him. Obviously, he's type 1; he hasn't got, but I do get that with the strength, and that's the difference. Is when I go into the gym, the difference with my strength training, I go in and I see men and women doing this. Yeah, this is just counterintuitive. You know, this is just waving. This isn't weight training. When I weight, I need to find a name for it. There's a challenge to you all. It's a cross between yoga and weights. I go up really slow and I come down. Go up really slow and come down. So it's about mind and muscle. It's not about, like I said, about the tension. So if you try that, and just think about the power in your arm rather than through your face, and always standing in a strong position, it will help. Even that itself is time under tension. So yeah, I cannot bear, my pet hate is people in the gym doing this. It's force that's moving it, it's not body weight. I feel like I could stop everyone and go, no, but I don't, I let them. But for you in particular, it's definitely mind and body, and building that strength would be my tip.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Any more questions, anybody? Nope, just unmute yourself if you do have anything. Nope. Well, I hope that you all got lots of fabulous information. Adele, honestly, that was absolutely great. I've learned loads. And thumbs up from Diane. Yeah, it was really, really good. So much information to share there. So I think it just leaves us to say thank you so much for attending, everybody. We really do appreciate you supporting us at Pausitivity as well. If you haven't downloaded your support pack yet, please do. That's completely free. Everything we do is free. And we really look forward to meeting some of you again in next week. In fact, next Thursday. I've forgotten. Oh, mental health and menopause next Thursday. That should be really, really interesting. So we hope to meet you, some of you there.